Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau.
And Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you are trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you are welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details. Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today we are going to talk about expectations in pregnancy versus reality, but specifically talking about nutrition. This is something that both Caitlin and I have seen come up in our clients, even just like perusing social media, seeing people talking about this. But basically, what you expected you were going to eat like, what your nutrition was going to be like in pregnancy versus how it actually planned out, because for so many of us, there are other things that come into play, like nausea and aversions, and what you plan to eat, oftentimes doesn't sound very good, or it's not settling well with you, or whatever it is. So, this can be something that's a little challenging from a mindset perspective. So, we just want to talk about this and kind of how to navigate these emotions and feelings around food.
I think also when you were talking, it made me think of how different the expectation can be from pregnancy to pregnancy as well. So you may experience something have in your first pregnancy that you expected it would be like that in your like subsequent pregnancies, and it just may not be the case. So I just want to acknowledge that like nutrition during pregnancy is very nuanced because there are just lots of unpredictable symptoms that can make navigating eating really tricky, regardless of how you like ate previously, coming into it. Like I hear from a lot of clients, they've tried to set themselves up for success with their nutrition prior to getting pregnant. And they're like, like I eat healthy, and that means that I'm not going to like have cravings, or I'm not going to uh, be vomiting over the toilet. And it's just like not the case, right? Like you may have great experience. I'm not trying to say to scare or fearmonger anybody, but just like the reality of pregnancy is that it can be very challenging, and sometimes things that you're feeling can be quite intense.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what we talked about in the last episode in terms of like exercise and working out in pregnancy with your expectations versus reality, that things can happen to you like pelvic pain or, things that you have no control over. Same thing with this. Like you don't have control over the nausea, the aversions, the random things that turn your stomach, like the smell of the refrigerator. Like I hear people say that, or like room temperature water. I still can't drink room temperature water. Like and I'm 2 years postpartum because that was an aversion I had in pregnancy. And I think
Yeah.
too, like gestational diabetes, there's a lot of guilt sometimes if you get diagnosed with gestational diabetes of like, I should have eaten healthier, or like, I ate healthy. How could this happen to me? And even just remembering like you really don't have control over it.
Yeah. And I think when you don't have control, especially when it comes to like what you're putting in your mouth, like you have to eat, right?
Hmm.
And so when these things pop up, I think it can feel really overwhelming because things that maybe you were used to doing that allowed you to like feel good, have great energy, whatever, just may not be the case during your pregnancy. And so just know that like it does not need to be perfect during this time. Like, yes, are there things that are going to be potentially like helpful when we look at nourishment across each trimester? Absolutely. But like, let's see where you're at and figure out things that are doable for you, especially on the days that are hard and challenging, so that you don't feel like you're in this constant battle with your body.
Yeah, I do feel like that's such an important reminder too. Like you have to eat at the end of the day, like having calories is important. And I think even for myself, like thinking back to my second pregnancy where I was so sick, like some days I'd feel kind of okay, and I could eat like semi-normally. Maybe the next day, like I was eating crackers like over the toilet all day, like it can really change day to day. And sometimes just trying to like take those good days and like really be like, okay, that was a win. I was able to get some
Yes.
protein and some fiber and like, okay,
Yeah.
we're winning today.
Yeah, well, I think acknowledging those wins is really helpful so that you're like validate validating yourself for when you do have like the tough days and you put a, nice plate of food maybe in front of yourselves and you just can't eat it and you're like, well, I think I'm gonna have to have toast again,
Hmm.
and like just being able to like acknowledge that like that something is better than nothing, right? Like above all, we want to try to get that nourishment in whatever way feels again doable on any given day. And so like there's like you have permission to like not guilt trip yourself if you are like in the throes of it, especially in the first trimester where again a lot of like nausea and aversions are common. Like let's just focus on like small like wins when we can get them and like if you can't eat vegetables right now, like that's okay. Like you will be able to again soon. Kind of like what you were mentioning again in the previous episode is like in the grand scheme of things, like this is a shorter time. Yes, it's important. Nutrition in pregnancy is important. Like we have great research studies that do really validate the quality of your nutrition being helpful in growing your baby. But also this is hard. This is hard and like you do need to take it day by day and try not to put so much pressure on yourself about it.
Yeah, I would love to know too, just like how you kind of help people work through like these big feelings around guilt. Like, I just know I hear people feeling really guilty when like their diet is majority carbs. Or again, like
Yeah.
getting that gestational diabetes diagnosis and being like, oh, it's probably because I ate nothing but bagels in the first trimester. And there, like, I have a client right now who was diagnosed with gestational diabetes and like she's really beating herself up about it. And it's like, ugh, like like you just feel bad because you're like there's nothing
Yeah.
that you could have done, and I do think it's really hard when people are just like beating themselves up about that and are like, oh, are there things I should have done differently? Like I'd love to
Hmm.
know just kind of how you help
Yeah.
people through those moments.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, one thing that I'll share my therapist told me in terms of like navigating like the big guilt and shame emotions that just like totally changed the game for me was that those you are not like intentionally trying to harm someone. Like unless you're trying to intentionally harm someone, like you should not feel guilty or you should not feel shame for. It's certainly like if you have like big feelings, it's okay, right? Like we can validate them. But I think like being able to like come back to a little bit like more neutral understanding with yourself and almost like zoom out for a moment. Like let's not like pick apart the choice, every single choice and decision you're making, right? Like you're saying, like, I only ate bagels. That's why I got gestational diabetes. Well, probably not. And there's so many, reasons outside of just the nutrition why someone may be having a gestational diabetes diagnosis. You could have a great pregnancy experience, eat super well and still get GD. Like again, a little bit out of our like umbrella of control a lot of the time. Um, but can we start to just like bring some like gentle awareness into the picture, right? When we're feeling good, can we pair some protein with a bagel? That's probably going to actually help your nausea if you can tolerate it. Come up with some options for yourself with some of these foods that do sound good, good that you can tolerate and add in there. Um, your body is going to be craving carbs. They're the easiest for our body to digest and break down. So when you're nauseous, that is what's going to sound the most appetizing. And so we don't need to like not have them, but what can we think of adding in? Like, can you put a nut butter on the bagel? Can you maybe like add some fruit for fiber there? We now have like a pretty well-rounded option, right? We've got the bagel for our carbs. You've got fruit in there too that has fiber and antioxidants. And then we've got a nut butter that has protein and healthy fats in it. Like, I think that's such, hopefully, that feels like a more simple shift where we're like not thinking about what we're taking away, but what can we add in and tolerate at meals.
Yeah, I think that's a really important shift, like not taking away, but adding in, like you said. And like you also mentioned, like sometimes the cravings are there for a reason because it's the thing that your body can tolerate right now. And so maybe don't feel bad when you're craving something because that could be your body being like, hey, this is what we need right now. And it's
And
okay.
a, and a lot of times it is with cravings. It's your body um, recognizing that there are certain nutrients that are needed. And so I always encourage people to get curious when they have cravings and to see where they're coming from. If it's you're craving something that's, outside of like heavily processed options, it probably is your body's way of saying, hey, I need this. So, like, are you craving a burger? Like, maybe your body needs some iron right now.
Hmm.
Are you wanting, I mean, this is like a more processed item, but like, are you craving potato chips? Like, maybe your body's really just wanting some like salt. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to go out and like have those chips, but also if you do, like, that's okay. But like,
Yeah.
maybe there's something else that we can like add in, or maybe you can make some like French fries in the air fryer and get some like salt on there from like a more Whole Foods perspective if that's important to you. Um, so there are things that we can do. We just have to be able to have grace with ourselves, but also again get curious about what is happening with the changes in our body and being able to tune into that.
Yeah. And I like too just what you're saying about like making these little shifts and really coming out of that like all or nothing mindset. And like even your example of like the bagel with the nut butter and like some fruit, like that does feel way more doable than like I need to have a salad today. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
those are very different things. And it's like, yeah, if I'm feeling like crap, like the bagel with nut butter and fruit definitely sounds better than a salad. Like, and hopefully, like,
of
if you're
course.
listening to this and you're feeling crappy, you're like, oh, yeah, that feels doable. Like, I can do that. And those little wins then like stack on each other. And then you kind
Yes,
of build up that confidence and just feeling
100%.
a little better about things.
And I think, again, we talked about this with movement, but all or nothing mentality when it comes to nutrition and fitness is so prevalent. I see this all the time,
Hmm.
and it does amplify itself in pregnancy. And so, it's not an excuse to do nothing when you're pregnant with your nutrition. It is important, but we also don't have to be perfect with it either.
Yeah, like really just trying to give yourself grace and remembering that pregnancy is hard and
Yeah.
there's a lot going on. And I think just remembering every little bit that you can do adds up. I feel like a lot of
Yes.
people forget that, like in both fitness and nutrition, like the baby steps do matter. They do lead up to bigger things. Um, and yeah, we don't have to be in this all or nothing place to help our bodies and make forward progress.
Yeah, and you can again like readjust these expectations that you had going into it to say like, okay, let's zoom out and like this is a journey where I just need to be a little bit more understanding of myself and like give my body like some compassion so that I can navigate this. Maybe like you said, like you don't enjoy being pregnant, so you don't have to go from like, the negative to being like super positive about it, but you can be like at peace and in this space, sort of in the middle that feels navigatable.
Yeah, I love that. Like just being more like neutral
Yeah.
and
I
less
think
of
we
like,
all need that. I just think there's so much extremes. We think that we either have to be like super happy, super positive, like sunshine and rainbows all the time with like everything, not just health and fitness. Um, and then if we're not that, then we think something is like wrong with us
hmm.
or and it's like actually if we could all just be in the middle a little bit more, it probably would feel better.
And I think something too, like if you are finding that you're really struggling just with like the guilt or the shame around food or your exercise or, the choices that you're making in pregnancy, get off social media. Like
Good, yes.
the comparison or like seeing what other people are doing makes that like expectation so much worse because you're like, I'm failing. Look at what she's doing. Oh, well, if she can do it, why am I feeling like this? Why can't I get it together? And like that helps nobody. And so I do feel like that's an important thing. Like, get
Hmm.
off social media, just like focus on yourself, do
Put
things
your
that make
blinders
you
on.
feel good too. Because, like we said, like sometimes pregnancy is not enjoyable. So, even like try to do something that's completely unrelated to pregnancy and like something that just you enjoy that makes you feel good. Like, pick up a book, like, or get outside, get some sunshine, like, just do something that's like, not doom scrolling or just like not thinking about pregnancy. Sometimes
Yes,
it's just like those little things that help and it's like we forget about
totally.
it.
Yeah. So I think like the big takeaways here is just like this is not about being perfect with your nutrition and pregnancy. Really like try to reframe it as a way that like what are small tangible things that I can do day by day, maybe even hour by hour to just like support what I feel like my body needs. And if you have questions or need support on that, please feel free to get in touch. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Wholesome Huntress Nutrition. If you have questions for Meg, you can find her at Vibrant Mama Wellness on Instagram. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend, leave a review. We would appreciate you. And we will see you back next week.